Welcome to episode 11.
Hang on.
There's the police.
That was the police. Is this where we insert some music from the 90s referencing how we feel about the police? That references...
Bad boys.
No!
What you gonna do?
No,
bad
not
boys,
that
bad
filth.
What you gonna
No.
do, bad boy?
Jesus Christmas. Okay, I'm taking my glasses off. That's how bad it is today, kids. I'm taking my glasses off.
I'll let you know Kate's a little bit flat because of the violence in the US has really messed with,
it's not.
with her this week.
Yes,
No, it has.
Yes, it has.
100% has.
It's been I have been involved peripherally interested, I would say, in American politics for a really long time. And
Well, it just got more interesting with Trump over the last
but also
4
interested
years.
in racial politics across everywhere. You know, like I was involved in stuff when I was a teenager with apartheid and the Troubles and in Ireland. Yeah. And like I remember when the Malcolm X movie came out and I was obsessed with Malcolm X, and Triple J ran a promotion about Malcolm X, and I was obsessed with Malcolm X, but nobody else knew who the hell he was because Australia is white as shit. Like we are.
Yes.
Okay, don't. We are like uber white, super duper white. And so nobody knew who the hell Malcolm X was. So Triple J, who's just a radio station for those who don't know, were running a thing, and you rang this number.
Network,
you rang this number. Shut up. You rang this number and they had a ring this number and then you could win a hat or a T-shirt or tickets or whatever for the Malcolm X movie, which is a glorious movie, and Denzel Washington is, quite frankly, a god and very much on my husband's list.
What does that mean?
Well, you know, oh my God, another police. What is this? What is going on?
That's
an ambo.
Hoppy doodle truck.
Oh, and it's slowing down. Oh, I don't like it. Anyway, so that so I rang that hotline and I got through and I won. And I was like, oh my God. And I won a T-shirt. And then I rang and I got through immediately after, and I just kept ringing, and I won like this stash of Malcolm X. Swag. I did. I won hats and T-shirts and tickets to the movie and books about him and everything. Anyway.
Hang on, I just want to go back a little bit. What was this on your husband's list?
Denzel Washington. In my fantasy land where I have a polygamous cult of husbands.
Oh, okay. A polygamous cult. Yeah, that's not going to happen though.
No, but listen, that's not what I'm talking about. So, you know, Tuesday husband is
John Roderick.
Correct.
Yeah, and out of all of these people, he's the one that actually knows he's
the only one that knows he's my Tuesday husband. If someone could get a message to Denzel, that'd be swell.
We don't know anyone, but all the 6 degrees of separation.
6 degrees. Someone out there is listening and is best buds with Denzel Washington.
So how do we get to Roderick?
His sister,
Susan, is friends with
the woman who ran
Creative Live,
and
they travel together a lot.
No, the Baby Summit. She hosted the Baby Summit.
Yes.
She emceed the Baby Summit.
Yes.
And we were like, oh my God. And then she called John, and I have a video of my Tuesday husband, and it's glorious. And there's another ambulance. That doesn't make me feel good. Anyway, so
ambulances fix things and make things better.
Something bad has happened.
Correct.
See, this is the difference between you're like ambulances, they fix things. I'm like badness ambulance. It's half full, half empty glasses. Anyway, so what were we saying? I'm feeling a bit crap. America's falling apart. Trump has his secret police on the ground beating the shit out of 75-year-olds. It's all, Yes. And meanwhile, the Rona rages, and they're all going to die in a minute from that if the cops don't get them first.
And no one's been talking about it.
And no one's been talking about it in Australia, except for everybody who were at the Black Lives Matter march, where I was about 2 hours ago with my kid and my sister and the babies and the dog and everybody else in Adelaide that knows what's what. Mm. And it was very nice and very good and very moving and excellent. And now I'm just exhausted and need to go and curl up in a ball and watch like rich white ladies be obnoxious on Orange County Housewives. Netflix has now got all the Housewives. People out there who like trashy television, let me tell you.
I have found
Housewives of everything.
A YouTube channel that's been made during this pandemic lockdown of a tank museum in Britain.
Oh,
and there's like 40 episodes discussing tanks.
Tank museum.
It is brilliant. And not rainwater tanks. We're talking like bang, bang, brrr. It is awesome.
Not rainwater tanks.
Yes. Anyhow, so how about rather than go and watch the Rich Housewives of LA or whatever,
watch that.
Why don't you listen to the next upcoming podcast?
Oh,
and then we'll talk about it after.
Do that play. We should have a game. I am obsessed currently with a computer game on my phone because I only have computer games on my phones because otherwise my life is over. I am listening to podcasts and playing Kingdom 2 Crowns.
Don't give them advertising. They sponsoring.
2 Crowns. If anybody has any tips on how to beat the fourth island.
Is that the one with a horse with its head on fire?
The horse does not have his head.
It looks like an antler.
No, that's the little stick that's on fire for when I ride into the night to kill the greed. Anyone who's playing Kingdom 2 Crowns, hit me up.
Okay.
It's a great game.
Okay, yeah.
Obsessed.
Okay, you.
It's ruining my life.
So who's our guest? My guest?
The man who takes photos of buildings.
Isn't he?
He's all about a straight line.
He's a wonderful
more
man.
of a straight line guy than all those bloody architects who build those buildings.
That's right. He could have built the pyramids.
This is it. There's got to be something in tune between a photographer who takes photos of buildings and an architect because they're both obsessive, compulsive lunatics when it comes to like straight lines and everything looking neat. And
hang on. What about Gary and Guggenheim Museum?
Oh yeah, we
That's
crumple a piece of paper and spend too much money making it. Yeah, I know.
So the audience, because we decided they're not listeners, they're not
the
viewers.
audience.
Although I want to use viewers like Hogs used to.
You can't because
G'day viewers.
Well, we don't know how many viewers there are.
Yeah, about 5. Okay, audience, enjoy David Sievers.
Sievers. And hang on, I want people to know that this chat has some slightly distressing bits to it because he talks about mental health.
Yes.
And if anybody finds they feel a bit upset about that, we will be having the numbers for Lifeline
and Beyond Blue
in our show notes, and we would encourage you to please reach out, ask a friend, talk to someone. There's a lot of people in the photographic industry at the moment that I think feel like they have to be doing really well and having been really creative in this downtime. It's actually really fucking hard to be creative in this downtime at the moment. And if you're feeling really crappy, you are not alone. And you might be feeling really crappy for like just because you're sick of being in the house with your housemates, or you've realised you have to dump your husband or your girlfriend, or you've realised that your cat has a bit of an obsessive relationship with you and it's all falling apart. I don't know. But none of these things are forever, and all of these things are perfectly valid reasons to feel like shit. We've all gone through a global trauma, and we're still going through it. There's going to be another 150,000 people dying in the States at a minimum. So that's why Real Housewives of Orange County and Kingdom 2 Crowns.
And the Tank Museum.
Because sometimes you need a little bit of distraction. Right, you don't actually have to, and I have to learn this. You're not an extra good person if you sit and watch all the news and read all the articles. You can take a break. You can still be an ally. You can still be helpful and not completely absorb yourself with it. And if it's not politics that's driving you mad and making you feel crap, if it's just because you've lost all your clients or you feel like you have, that is just bloody awful. And there's going to be people out there that feel like that. And I think, as often happens in this industry, there's a lot of fig jam. Those of you who don't know what fig jam is, it's fuck I'm good, just ask me.
She's the definition of fig jam.
I actually was bought a jar of fig jam by my child, my beautiful Josephine.
Because she knows.
Because she also has a dab of the old fig jam, But I think there's a bit of the fig jam in the photographic industry where people really are like, I've been super creative in this time and I've chosen to work out for 3 hours a day and eat nothing but kombucha smoothies, and I'm just really feeling it and really loving getting back in touch with nature and like my art and all that shit. And they're great. Like, yay to them. Except 90% of that's bullshit. Firstly. Secondly.
Yeah, but you fake it till you make it.
Yeah, but not everybody can. No. Okay? And that stuff is whilst, you know, they're trying to do their thing and be hashtag positive, there's a whole lot of people that are hashtag fucking over it, and and that it's not super helpful to A, believe that any of that is necessarily true, because marketing is a bitch, and B, that you guys don't feel like you have to conform to that as well. So, because I know there's a lot of, like, there are accounts in my feed that have gone super quiet, and I'm worried about them, and there are I know there are a lot of people out there that are seeing a lot of people and feeling additional pressure on their businesses and on their mental health to be like the creative genius that came up with all these fabulous ideas while we were all sitting in our houses.
Like they're going to jump the gun on everybody because they've...
Yeah, and there's an element of this that's now like we're over the crisis. Now it's like the dragging you through the recovery, and that is actually often much harder than the crisis, because the crisis you can be like, right, buy more toilet paper, and then after that you're just sitting in a room with a fuckload of toilet paper.
You can make a throne out of the toilet paper.
Yes, and that's then you have to live with the toilet paper. So now we're all living with the toilet paper, and we have to drag ourselves through this and work it out. And there are services out there. If you're in Australia, you're very lucky. You can go to a GP and you can get help, and you can get mental health plan, which I have and you have and our kids have. We all have therapists in our family. We have therapists about our therapists. Like, it's a whole thing. And I love my therapist more than anything on the planet. She is a goddess. No.
More than your
No, she teaches me to love you more than her.
Oh,
she's wonderful.
Nice. How about we let the people listen to David?
I just want to put that in there. It's really important.
I agree.
And if you're not feeling good, come back to this one.
Agree.
Not that it's like heavy duty. I don't think it is. I think you guys handled it really well.
No, David is very sensitive and understands the feelings.
It was beautifully done, and I think it was a really nice sort of dipping in and out of the issue without sort of getting stodged into it. I think it's beautifully done, but I just think it's important that given 100%. What's happening, everybody's aware, 100%. And we'll put the Lifeline stuff in the show notes, and please just ask for help if you need it, and write a review when you're feeling really good. And then you know what we're going to do, because I actually haven't read if anybody's written any of your reviews, short of one person who we know has, because he's lovely, Doug, if you're listening. But we're gonna read out.
Oh yeah, what a nice idea!
Don't you think?
Well, that'll
say
bore the
thank
listeners.
you. No, we'll just read out the names and thank them. So if you want to be a rock star on the podcast and have the names read out, then you have to leave a 5-star review. And if you leave anything other than a 5-star review, we will leak your name to Anonymous and have your accounts hacked and doxed and basically end your life.
Enjoy.
Right. Oh. Test and test and test.
No. Let's get straight into it.
Oh, we're doing it.
We're doing it.
Oh, really?
We're doing it.
And I haven't even sworn yet.
Fuck.
Well,
let's start by swearing together. Okay. What do you want to say? What's the swear you want to use?
I'll just go with shit.
Okay.
Why not?
1, 2, 3.
Shit. Well, the thing is that I feel comfortable with the fact that nothing could top Kate. So if there's a prelude to this video, like the others, and an after, then realistically anything in between is just totally PG, no matter what I do. It's
risky you being here because she could actually walk in the door any minute, but she does know. Well, she's had a long day, so I doubt she will, but she could come down chasing a dog or something like that.
But she could be moody then if she's had a long day. I like how you just breezed over that. Cheers.
Cheers.
Is this Scotch or truth serum?
They both work the same way. So I'm here with David Sievers of David Sievers Photography, an imaginative name, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And we've had so many chats over the years, I can't really count them, because whilst we're slightly different in age, you're much younger than me, but our time as a serious person in the industry is very similar.
Right.
Because I think I was screwing around for a long time, not getting into it. And you, of course, were just following a natural path. You had this thing about photography, you wanted to do it, and you got into it, and you're really serious about it. And so I think in 95, was it when you really started?
Well, 96, 97, I was out at the TAFE. 97.
Now that was Marden?
No. So that was at Croydon TAFE.
Croydon. Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah. With Alex Knezvik and...
Yep. And all those guys. Yep. Which was a great time. But yeah, going back from that, I was at Martin when it was I was one of the last people that went through while it was at high school. So yeah, funny kind of suddenly having to lose your uniform and everyone was in normal clothes and suddenly adults were there when it turned into an adult college. So, and
it's a great, like, it's probably the premier, well, it's not the premier, but it's one of the great photographic colleges in the state. And because the guy that runs it is, I don't know, really loves what he does. It's like, what makes anything good? One person usually trying.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So yeah, I mean, we were probably one of the first schools maybe to have Photoshop. I don't know, but
95.
So I finished in 93 and then repeated. So about 94, 95. Yep. I mean, I think I've mentioned this to you before, but I just I feel like, you know, truly sort of blessed and lucky that I knew what I wanted to do at such a young age. So I reckon year 10 photography.
Wow.
I decided that, hey, this is actually what I want to do, and then I could really focus on it and do everything possible to find a pathway into a job. So I did.
Hang on, before you go any further, why? What happened in year 10? Why?
I don't know. I think
was it grandfather Wolfgang?
No. The thing is, grandfather Wolfgang came a lot later in the piece, so I'll get to that.
Yeah.
But I think I don't know. I just think that I really enjoyed it. You know, walking around, taking pictures, all that student stuff that you did. It would be hilarious to look back at it now. But yeah, I did. I was always a bit, I guess, crafty.
Yeah.
But and creative, and I think before that, my interests were around music. I played guitar. I was quite like into that, and that was quite a funny thing because that's a major transition point where I sold all my guitars and bought camera gear. So I basically did year 12, and I repeated photography. Well, I didn't want to repeat photography. I just wanted to use the darkroom for another year.
Okay.
So
you did want to repeat, but you wanted to repeat
without having to get marked.
Correct.
And so it was funny because it was a senior school. You could just pick and choose what lessons you wanted to do as a adult re-entry thing. So it worked brilliantly. So I literally just did photography.
Yeah.
And used the darkroom for a year. So, and within that time, I did a couple of bridging courses out at Croydon.
Yep. So Croydon is South Australia, or was South Australia's TAFE college that was about moving into the profession of photography. Very practical course.
Yep.
And it still kind of exists, but Croydon was when it's in its heyday with all the resources and
and a lot of great people came for it as well. So So
So who went through Croydon at your time?
So Jacqui Way was in my year. Stephen Laxton, who's in New York now.
He's photographing the Obamas at Christmas time, you know.
Yep, Karen Stevens, and a few people that are in press. Lots of people that, it was always funny, that course, because it was, a lot of people did it because it was something fun and interesting, and they somewhat thought it was a bit of an easy thing, you know, rather than, hey, let's go off to uni and all that kind of thing. But I think what shows out of the people that made it out of that course are the people that are still doing it because they...
And what percentage you reckon?
It was pretty small back then, but I think it got more as the years went on.
Someone said around 30% may make something of themselves.
I'd probably say that. But at the time, it was such a popular course. I think at the time that I went in, I mean, I have to say, I didn't actually get in the first year. I actually got in the second year, which is why there's a little bit of a gap. So there was like that repeat of year 12, and then there was another gap year because I didn't get in. Because it was about 600 people.
What?
For 12 full-time and 12 part-time positions.
Wow.
So they ended up growing the class.
That's serious odds.
Yeah. So they ended up growing the class to, I think, the 24 and dropping the part-time because the part-time was 6 years. Full-time was 2 years. So it just, there was too many people dropping out of the part-time side of it. It was really just I guess, an option for people that might have been, had other careers or other, family things and stuff like that as well. So, but loved my time out there, and it was a really good time to get into photography as well. That late 90s,
pre-digital sort of.
Yeah, and I just I look back at it really fondly, and it was one of those things that I started to get to know that what I really liked about the craft was creating something from nothing.
Yeah.
That's how it started, certainly. So I was always locking myself in the studio for hours on it. And
so is that how you like to work? Like, are you a studio person now, or is it?
No, not at all. I mean, that's the thing. Early days, I was pretty much all studio. So my first job, working with Kevin O'Daly at Aspect Photographic. Yep. So Kevin actually rang up the college and spoke to Alex and said, "Who's a good studio person?" Because he wanted to do just all the location stuff and leave someone basically locked up in the studio all day. And so I had a meeting with him and got a job. So I actually got a job before I graduated, which is actually an odd thing, especially when you look back at the study and the available jobs in photography these days. But I think I got a job in August '97, and then still had to see out the end of that year. So at the time I got a job, I was still doing a couple of lessons, and I was also doing a bit of work experience at Orange Lane as well. And which was quite funny because for those that don't know or do know, I mean, there was basically 4 or 5 major photographic commercial studios in Adelaide, and they're all reasonably competitive with each other to some extent, but in a nice way.
There were cars and stuff. They all kind of did the same. Orange Lane specialised in certain things and aspects.
Yeah.
But they were competitive, particularly Aspect.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, Kevin was he was a great person to work for, but yeah, he was sort of, I guess everyone sort of says the same thing. He was sort of hard but fair. Yeah.
And just competitive. He was. Yeah. It's just like played the game.
Yeah, he did. So I think
he's still alive, by the way.
Yeah, we're talking as if this is not a eulogy.
No, this is not a eulogy. He's in Tasmania though. We sent him down to the convicts.
Yeah.
Yes.
He's actually a very calm man in comparison to what he used to be. So I think Tasmania's definitely chilled him out. Look, I think I did my major study module. That was basically that last block, last semester of the course, and I did that with Darren Setafati.
Wow.
So
he's back in Adelaide now.
Yeah, I have heard that he's back in Adelaide. So I haven't caught up with him, but so that was why I was at Orange Lane. And then if he didn't have stuff booked, then I would just help Mike or Drew or some of the other people. So basically...
because he was in Orange Lane and they had their own group of photographers in there. And so you were one of that mob, as well as being an Aspect for the majority of the time, or?
Yeah, so like I said, it started in August. So you only got till the end of the year. So it wasn't a massive crossover. But it was just an interesting time, and also at Aspect at the time we had a few other people. So Craig Arnold was there, and Clayton Glenn was there, and a couple other people. I mean,
Jacqui was there.
No, Jacqui.
That's right.
No, Jacqui was never at Aspect. I think at the time she might have actually been at Duck Pond.
Right.
She got a job at Duck Pond.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, just not long after I got a job at the studio. So. So yeah, it was just a really cool time. Yeah. We went to a lot of studio events with other studios. It was a fun time, but if I look back at what I remember about it, I was just a sponge at the time, but also I picked up stuff, but I never took anything without wanting to change it or see if I could do it even differently, whether it was. And most of the time I just made it more complicated. And these people that had been doing it for years and years and years actually just had found the right way. But I was just
you got to do that yourself sometimes.
Yeah, I just I didn't want to take stuff. I wanted to, I guess, be inspired by it, but still find my own way.
Yeah.
So I think that's the thing. And then, but yeah, look, they were all great people, and it was a great time. And
how long did it last? You know, in a studio system, when did you feel like you needed to be out of that and doing something yourself?
As in my own business?
Yeah, like, because the thing is, people hire assistants, and if you've got a good assistant, you know they're not going to last. You know they're on their way to somewhere else. Yeah, and in many ways, working for one of these studios or at one of these studios, you're a bit more than an assistant, perhaps, aren't you?
Yeah, no, I was, and that was something that's actually also quite nice about that time. And Kevin really did give me quite a lot of free reign, because he wanted me to really just manage that studio side of it. He didn't want to have to hold my hand.
Yeah.
So he wanted to concentrate on all that fun industrial, architectural, commercial stuff on location, and leave me with the photographing of bottles and toilet paper and copy shots of books and weird, just some of it was pretty, all the sort of, all the bread and butter kind of stuff that comes through a studio. But then...
Did you find yourself trying to complicate that stuff with ideas and techniques and build it to a bigger thing, or were you just hammering stuff out at that stage?
I got easily bored if I couldn't get creative. And I think at the time, even if I couldn't do it as a job, I would do it myself anyway. So I would bring a lot of stuff into the studio and just shoot it anyway, for the sake of being able to be a bit more creative with the light. But look, it was all fun. But yeah, I think the romanticism of that film and what people talk about is really just, look, it's like everyone talks about digital and you knew what you were going to get, but we shot Polaroids.
Yeah, you knew what you were going to get.
We kind of knew what we were going to get. We metered it and to buggery, so we kind of knew.
But still, you could see it. But the Polaroids are bad.
Oh no, it's not a not a good representation.
You know your ratios. You know what the light's doing. So it's quite important that you actually repeat things the similar way, because otherwise you'd be back and forward reshooting things again.
Well, absolutely, and I think that's one of the things about commercial photography, whether it's even digital or even back then. There's a lot of people that made notes. We made little diagrams.
Yep.
Because often you would shoot stuff for people that you would have to shoot again and again and again. It'll be a different product, but they want the same look or the same lighting setup. So it was very systematic, and I think that's what I liked about it. And I think even when I was studying, the joy of studio was you had nothing. You had to create everything.
From black, you're adding...
You might have a product, but you had to make it interesting with a background, and then you had to introduce all your light and pick your angles and stuff like that. And I really enjoyed that. I guess, Kevin often said to me, he goes, I don't know how you have the patience for some of this stuff.
Yeah.
So, yeah, look, it's just...
So that's your foundation is your patience, right?
Yes, but that's a little bit different as you get older. That's
Well, the thing is, I think what gets in the way is time. Yep. And you've got this fixed thing, and I love thinking of it as a pie, and you're cutting it up. Mm-hmm. And then you cut it up and you make a piece for some other part of your life. You make a piece and suddenly there's nothing left of the pie. Yep. And no matter how patient you are and careful you are, you cannot add to that pie. And no matter how generous you are and kind and wanting to please others, you can't add to the pie.
No.
And so when you're working for someone else, you're kind of adding to their pie.
Yeah.
Because you're giving them time. You're giving them your time, and in reward, you're getting money and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
But you start dividing that pie up, don't you, as you get older, because you get more interested in other things.
Yeah, so I think your question about when did it change?
Yeah, when did it change? Yeah.
When did it change to a business? So I started my business in 99. So we're 21.
So 94 you're starting...
So 90, I actually did a bit of early work experience with a bunch of people. I also did I worked at Photoco for a while.
Oh, wow.
It's kind of like
So that's the Central Market, one of our great little camera stores amongst market stalls and stuff.
So I actually worked at there was a store on Hindley Street for quite a number of years. Yeah. So a lot of their trade was all the tourists.
Our dodgiest street.
The dodgiest street, but it was right near Rundle Mall. So it wasn't the dodgy end of
I know
Hindley
where it
Street.
is, yeah. Righto.
So, and I did 1 day a week at the Central Market, but most of it was at the Hindley Street store. And
great secondhand stuff.
Yeah, great secondhand stuff, and just playing with a bunch of old cameras and all that. It was all. I mean, that's the thing. I kind of, again, because I like to overthink things and do things in a bit of a meticulous manner. I thought, hey, I'm gonna look at each side of this industry and then work out what interests me. So I literally. Worked in a camera store. I shot in a studio. I shot out of a studio. I also worked in a lab. Where I did a night shift at
Black and White Photographics.
Black and White Photographics. People still find this funny anyway that a lab could have been that busy
to have a night shift.
Because they had a Fuji Frontier machine. Well, basically 2 of them that run around the clock. And I'm still not 100% sure if it was legal that I was working by myself at night, but I think it was. I don't
know what the laws were back then.
No, I don't know what the laws were as well, and I'm sure Matt had checked it all. But
we both share the love of the bakery that was next to Black and White Photographics.
Oh, absolutely,
Canal Bakery.
Yeah. Well, I had the benefit of
croissants.
Well, I had the benefit of finishing my shift
when
they were actually open to the public.
They were baking from 3 a.m.
Oh, I used to smell it.
Yeah. I don't know how you could live.
No. Well, you turn into a fat bastard like I am. But but no, I think
croissants a really good thing though to be. If you're going to be addicted, like it could have been something like chocolate or something terrible.
I know, and I didn't have the chocolate croissants. It just had the
plain. The plain are amazing. They don't even need
and
butter
the Danish, they do a good Danish.
They do a great Danish.
So basically, I did a 10 at night till 6 in the morning shift.
Far out. For how long?
At one point it was 2 nights a week. I think it might have gone up to 3, but I worked there for 5 years on and off. I got a bit lazy at one point and started taking a few day shifts. So, and I say lazy because it was a bit too easy. You know, it was like than chasing work. So there was a time in my life where, I mean, at the time I had that idea that a lot of people have that, hey, I'm going to go and live overseas for a while.
Yep.
And I took that job on for that manner to perk up the photography. So, because one thing I guess I always tried to do was I did other things rather than compromising the work that I took on. I tried to do what I wanted to do.
Yep.
And then if I needed more money, I'd get it other ways rather than, hey, I'm going to...
That's been a great theme amongst all the people I've interviewed. Has been this, like, I don't want to ruin my photography. I get a job doing something else that allow me to take my time.
Well, I learned pretty early in the piece that you, especially in a small town like Adelaide, you get pigeonholed very quickly. And someone only had to see you at an event and you'd be an event photographer in your mind.
Right.
In their mind. Yeah. So it was kind of, and that's
especially clients.
And that's nothing against that. And that's all.
Yeah, but if you're trying to get architecture work and you're shooting
so I mean, I did, as with everyone starting out, you do a bit of everything anyway. I literally, I can't think of anything.
So you did Christmas, you did Father Santa stuff, didn't you?
I did do Santa stuff.
And so did Kevin. Like, Kevin was doing Santa up till only a few years ago.
Well, yeah, he was doing Santa at Burnside Village. But that was all part of it as well. I did Santa at David Jones when I think, we did David Jones. I did graduation photos for Uni SA at one point. It was kind of like I took on these little summer jobs, winter jobs that, you know.
So you're in your 20s then?
Yep.
Yep.
So I reckon I was 20. So what are we, 97? So yeah, I was 21 when I got the job with Kevin.
Yep.
And so the reason why I started my business in 99 was because the entrepreneurial side of me was seeing the money flowing through the studio, and a lot of it was stuff that I had wholly and solely basically managed. So I didn't go hard on Kevin. I was quite fair. Like, he had the reputation. That's why the work was coming in. I was just doing it. But basically, I just sat him down one day and I said, is there any chance that I could get paid a little bit more when I do photography than when I'm just being an assistant, or if I'm just processing stuff in the lab? Because we did all our own processing. We had E6 and I did all the black and white printing as well. So there was lots of stuff I did there, which is still to this day relevant. And even my time at a lab, I seriously think that's
your understanding of color.
Yeah, that's any
of our clients that have worked in a lab are great clients.
Oh, and how quick you have to be.
Yeah,
it's kind of like we would scan rolls of films so quickly, and you have to sort of make corrections to every shot as you go through. And I think that really helps, even when you're batch processing stuff in this day and age in digital. So, but yeah, look, I think I got a bit entrepreneurial and said, okay, I'm going to, do you mind if I charge you a little bit more? And he said, yeah, sure. Why don't you actually set up your own business? So
that's really interesting. There's nothing to do with Kevin or any of the big studio owners, but my opinion from the outside is one of the mistakes they made was not giving more to the people who are working in the studio to help them stay, because you don't want these people like yourself to go, because they make the whole place look better. They cause it to sort of throb with energy and all this kind of stuff, and they bring other people in. And what I found, or what I saw, is a lot of people leaving them, and they became ghost towns and crusty. But this is not what happened, right?
No. So it turned into, hey, I will get a higher rate when, it's still, with the money that people were charging, I was, fair about it. It was only a little bit more, but it's kind of like it was just almost like a symbolic thing. It was kind of like, hey, if I'm playing this big, a more specific role, then shouldn't it be a different sort of pay thing? So yeah, he was quite fair about it, and he said, okay. And then it turned into artwork as well. We're pretty quick off the mark with digital. So in the sense that he
was actually, we used him at a seminar, and it was about demonstrating digital versus film and latitude and that. And he was right there. And we did it with a wedding. We simulated a wedding. Okay. And he was the first out the gate, really, that we felt was far enough ahead that could answer those questions.
Yeah, I reckon we, I couldn't tell you a year, but yeah, I know that we got a Nikon D1 when they first came out. So it was hilarious that it was whatever it was, 2.3 megapixel camera, and it was 12 grand or something like that. But yeah, even before that, we shot everything on film and we scanned it.
Yep.
So we got from the point of sending all the film out to sending files out and keeping the film. So I think we had an Agfa scanner, Agfa Duo scan pretty early in the piece. And
yeah, we got an Arca still in the back somewhere.
Yeah, so I found that fascinating. That was really early in the piece. So I reckon we were only filmed specifically and only for maybe, the first 3 years or something. And then it turned into scanning, and I couldn't put a date on it. But yeah, I reckon late 90s.
No, you're right. It would be around that. I think I felt that sort of 96, 97, 98, that's when really things started to get messy.
Yeah. There was the line got blurred,
and when I say messy, it's because people they struggled with the understanding, and they struggled either hanging on to the past, or they struggled with, what's happening next. How do we get into this? And Mike and Drew, like the amount of money Drew Lemon put into the first scanning back 5.4 camera in Adelaide, I think, or in South Australia, or maybe even Australia, I don't know. He lost probably 3 years worth of income pouring his effort to make that work. But he got it to work because the next guy who bought the next model was no problems. You plugged it in, it worked. But, you get ahead this way.
The funny thing is, it's kind of like you talk to a lot of young generations now, and they just wouldn't even get what we're talking about, because a lot of
that... And you know what? It's irrelevant, man.
But a lot of that really early digital stuff was so finicky, and the Firewire connections were like a joke.
Scuzzy.
And it's like, and you're basically waiting for this camera. You have to go through this all these different things to try and get it to work.
Witch doctory.
And it was fun. But I reckon we shot catalog stuff pretty early on the piece with that Nikon digital.
But it really is so irrelevant. It's great to talk about, great to think about.
Yep.
But it's just I don't know how much that mess helped people. I think the film workflow and the idea of not being able to preview your image, I think that taught a lot.
Yep.
But I think that hell that we all went through trying to get digital up and running and working and at least up to film standards, it's like, oh, we wasted our time. You know, we probably should have sat on film for a couple more years and then wait till digital to get better.
And lots of people did, and then lots of people sort of entrusted that sort of learning process to people like yourself.
Yeah.
So they continued on their film journey, and then waited for the right time, and they waited for other people that are, or like the bridgeheads of the world and all that kind of thing with early, drum scans and stuff like that. So
photo CD.
Yeah. Well, CDs and zip drives, and they're all like icons of that late 90s, early 2000s. And now we're just
like, what?
Yeah, what? And what is even anything? I mean, it's funny because we used to drop film off to people, and we had that engagement with a client often. Or you just career stuff. It's hilarious to think, when anyone asks me, what's the difference between film and digital, which did you like more? And I said, I like them both for very different reasons. I mean, film, you could really only pick one thing, like especially if you look at interior photography, you could pick one light source to correct for. It's okay, am I going to correct for the fluoro, or am I going to correct for the tungsten or the daylight coming through? And we were very limited in what we could do. And now we can do anything, but we lose our nights and our weekends and our extra downtime and all that. So
it's a trade, isn't it?
It's the trade-off. So whereas often, there was definitely times where I never even saw the job. It was shot. You knew that you had it right, and it got couriered because it was so urgent.
From the lab straight to
it got couriered straight from the lab to the client. And it's funny, we've got all these pictures on our archives and stuff now, and it's like there's all this early stuff that I shot that is non-existent. I don't have it. I don't own it.
The only way of making a copy was either seeing it finally in a magazine or on a billboard or something, or you made a dupe of the transparency, and they're terrible quality.
They're terrible, and I actually spent a lot of time making dupes because even for clients, we used to have to do that as part of the process because they
wanted 5 copies of that tranny.
Yeah, but they also wanted a 35mm slide for a presentation. I mean, this is all before PowerPoint.
Yeah.
So you'd shoot everything on a Hasselblad and then have to take a 35mm slide of the
crop the square to
of the shot and send it to him, which was
that's crazy.
But yeah, it was never that great, and but yeah, just a real interesting time. And
So come on, when did you go, I'm now David Sievers? So Kevin gave you the opportunity, start your own business. Yep. So that's when you registered and whatever else you did at that stage.
Yeah, so registered the name, went through that process. It was all around the same time and then the GST sort of come in as well, to complicate everything.
So our taxation system changed from sales tax, wholesale tax. It was a mess to a flat 10%.
10% GST.
It still stands. Yeah.
So it's basically I still worked for Kevin in a very, very similar role.
Yep.
But it just meant that I invoiced him.
Yep.
X amount of hours at the flat rate, and then X amount of hours at photography, and then there was X amount of hours of artworking as well, because he would charge the artwork out, and that was very much early days. That was a lot of the work that I used to do. So just
cleaning files up,
but also again together we were pretty quick on what we could do. Now that we were scanning stuff, what could we do? Could we scan 2 different files, one for tungsten, one for daylight? Yep. Could we shoot different films? I mean, we had removable backs, and so there was even within the scanning stage that we were already starting to think, hey, how can we do things differently to better the result through our new methods? So I guess that was the part I always found interesting. I like problem solving. It's probably the main reason I got into photography. I liked that problem solving, and then the slightly more arrogant version of, hey, I did that.
Yeah, right.
Which is probably why I chose more of the commercial thing, because it's kind of like, and And it wasn't in an arrogant manner at all. It's just this idea that you could see something in a magazine or see something on a billboard when you were driving down the street was pretty romantic. And it was kind of like,
pretty cool.
It was a pretty cool idea to latch onto, and I was just lucky that I could go in that direction. But yeah, certainly early days it was definitely studio. Loved creating something from nothing, and then eventually I really liked people stuff.
So what was it about people stuff that you liked?
I don't know. I've always been quite social.
Yep.
Which is why I think we're all so lonely in the digital world, because we used to catch up with people at all the labs, and because you'd go to the lab twice a day.
Yeah.
Because you were getting film processed, and you're always running to everyone, and so it's funny that we're so connected, but we're so lonely in this day and age. And
it's been even weirder with the coronavirus stuff.
Yeah,
too.
well, exactly. And I think
in the end, whether it's the client you're making the work for or the people in front of your camera, you're working for somebody. You're making people and their things look better.
Yeah.
Look its best and that kind of stuff. So you're trying to please them in one way or another.
Yeah, well, that's it. I mean, I guess I've always had the attitude that my job is to make other people look good.
Yeah.
So forget about the people side of it, even if it's so the business,
of course.
The commercial world is kind of like, I want to make them look good. And so it was never really about me.
Yeah.
It was always, I guess it was that, it was that weird kind of.
Well, it's about,
always wanting to be
it's
liked.
about you. It's about feedback. Well, I'm suffering from the same thing. You know, you want to make people happy.
Yeah,
you do. I just don't know where and how that comes. Survival thing, probably. Don't hit me.
Be
nice to me. It's a caveman thing. I suppose. So okay. You liked working in shooting people. You're still at O'Daly's. When did you fly the nest, or what did you do next? Did you stay there for forever, or?
I stayed there forever, but under my own.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you basically rented space out of that.
Yeah. So I rented space off Kevin initially, and then he sold the building, so I rented that off the new owner.
That's right. Yeah.
So I
you're upstairs. You had the.
I was basically there for 16 years.
Yeah.
In
and you pivoted from photographing products more to what?
Well, basically, I found that I really liked the location stuff. So the stuff that
stuff that Kevin wanted. So did you get a junior and whip him into doing this?
No, I didn't, because I didn't want to do that. I wanted the best of both worlds. So I still did a lot of studio product, but I started to realize that I could see why getting out and about was a cool thing. So I was always locked in the dark, and then I came out into the light. But it was just I think out of necessity, when you start your own business, you do a bit of everything. And I was doing...
It's insurance, really.
Yeah, and I was doing a bit of everything. And I still had my loves, but I don't think that I'd really developed my solid love for architecture just at that stage. I think I was still finding my way. So going back to, realistically, even what we've talked about so far, it was always this journey where I wanted to find my spot. So your joke about Grandpa Wolfgang, so I'm not related to him, so it's the same name. So for those that don't,
it is Sievers, Wolfgang Sievers.
For those that don't know,
I'll write the note down so that I can put it in the show notes.
Yeah. So Wolfgang Sievers was a famous Australian photographer that did a lot of industrial and architectural work. Now the funny thing is, when I was at Croydon TAFE, someone asked me any relation to Wolfgang Sievers, and I said, yes, he's my dad. And the lecturer laughed, but that is actually my dad's real name. He goes by Wally, but he is Wolfgang Sievers. So, but then I realized, and part of we had to do a history assignment. So I did my history assignment and study on Wolfgang Sievers, because this had just dropped on me that, hey, there was someone with the same family name. And I just fell in love with the work.
That's incredible work.
So that was basically, so about 96. So that was probably the first year of TAFE.
Right. So you kind of worked out what you wanted to do.
Well,
you just wanted to try everything else but it.
No. It's probably, that was the start.
Right.
And then, of course, Kevin was very industrial architectural photographer at the time, and I used to process all that work. So I was always having it out on a light table. So I was always looking at it.
When did you?
Then a few times I went out with him on jobs, and then it got to the point where I wasn't just doing studio stuff, and he would send me out on jobs. So I probably shot my first architectural shoot for Woods Bagot, who are a pretty big architectural firm. Yep. I reckon that was about 99.
Wow.
99. So all on film, all 40 mil on a Hasselblad.
Wow.
And
40 mil's really wide, distorted, you know.
It was actually really good. Like it's really not that wide by
I suppose.
In this
probably
day and age,
equivalent to
35,
28, 35.
No, it's about
28.
I reckon it was a bit wider than that.
24.
I reckon it was about 22. Yeah,
right,
just had a guess. 24, something like that. Anyway, I'm sure someone can correct us on that.
It's incredible setup, the 24.
Well, the thing is, in that day and age, we weren't really... Kevin did shoot some architectural stuff on 5.4 for the corrections and stuff, but if you shot on a 40 mil Hasselblad with a square frame, often you'd just crop the top half of the frame to a 6.45 and you've got a straight shot. So as long as you kept the lens level, you had your straight verticals and you just crop the top off it. And you have a whole bunch of road on the bottom or whatever. But the client never saw it because we used to put it in a Kenro mask or whatever those things were called, and we'd send it off to them. Yeah. But what were we talking about?
No, we're talking about... actually, what I wanted to ask you is, when did you get better than Kevin?
I'm not going to talk about that.
Well, I don't know. I think...
I don't...
Because you feel like it. Like, you're working under someone and your work is good and your work is great. I don't think Kevin had your attention to detail.
I think Kevin did have my attention to detail. He probably just...
Yeah. He just seemed to want to... I think he was interested in working with people and doing that stuff that's a little bit faster. Yeah, and I think you want to work that bit slower. I think you pulled out the perfection more than anyone else I know in that kind of world.
I have to say that working for someone good is really good, because then you always want to be better. You don't talk about it. Yep. And I still remember the day I actually had a fight with Kevin, and he was walking up the stairs and he actually knocked me down a couple of pegs and said, "You're getting too big for your boots." And that's hilarious, because a lot of that used to happen in the late 90s, and I've heard it from many other young photographers as well. So, but it's what I needed to hear. It was great. It was amazing. And I was a bit cheeky though. I did have a meeting with one of his clients, but they asked me to come and see them, and I thought that he was aware of that. And then it turned into him finding out. So that was just...
that's the pot calling the kettle black. Yeah. Because I know for a fact the amount of people that Kevin... and that was business. I said, he's a competitive guy. It's a competitive guy, and he went and did... And I know it's a bunch of people who would be happy to say, yeah, totally. But that's business, you know?
Yeah. Look, I mean,
it's different in the same studio, I'm sure. It'd be much more uncomfortable for the person you're working for to get the opinion that you're trying to take their clients.
Exactly. And look, I bitched and moaned about plenty of people over the years that have gone and knocked on the doors of my clients or whatever.
100%.
So, and we all do, and we all get close.
Makes you feel good.
It all...
Gets the frustration out.
But I always was quite fair in the sense that I never approached anyone. Yeah. It was only if they approached me. Yeah. And that was the way it sat well with me.
So the danger of that is when they want to approach you because they think you're going to be cheaper. Like that's the thing that sucks, because you're younger and naturally people go, oh, he's up and coming, he's probably going to give me a better deal. Yeah. And that's not the way you would have worked at any rate.
No. I think that the best thing that young people can do is to sort of, be aware of that and see through it and rise above it. And look, the problem with discounting yourself, obviously you have to start somewhere. So you're always going to be cheaper than someone that's been doing it for 30 years. But yeah, if you're a $200 photographer, you'll always be a $200 photographer. Like
it's hard to shake that off.
It's hard to shake that off. Yeah. So yeah, you kind of always... And it's the same with every job that I've ever done. It's kind of like I always quote it on the way it should be. If they want to knock it down and they say, we don't want to go that far with it, whatever, then we talk. We talk, and it's like, okay, well then let's limit the amount of shots we do, or maybe you don't need that dust shot or whatever. But I would always give them the best. So often that rules me out of the piece because but I think that you win the respect from people that you're trying to make them look good, and so you'll always approach it from the best angle. So
and it's funny, it takes a lot of years. This is where the time to establish a business comes into it. It takes a lot of years to get the reputation where you can say, well, this is what it is. And they know, that it's going to take you this long and that's what the price is. And I think that's where some people struggle because they haven't got those years and that respect from the client, and they don't have their name out there, and they haven't done the things that help level you up a bit. Now, you spent a fair bit of time in the AIPP, Australian Institute of Professional Photography, and you got your Master of Photography.
Yeah.
And so that involves a whole lot of really high scoring prints in a row. Did you ever get a Photographer of the Year with this stuff?
No.
Right.
Not in the national.
Not the national, but South Australian you were.
Yes.
You have several times. So that sort of stuff is all a part of that oozing your reputation out a bit. I mean, it's not not really a platform, but it's a part of it, isn't it?
No, but it is a platform, but I guess I always looked at it as my own personal journey.
Yep.
I never looked at it as, hey, I'm going to promote this. It was just, hey, how does my work measure up against the peers? And I guess that's the thing. I have to say over the years I've tapered off my attitude, but when I was young and all that kind of thing, I was very driven. So I think, just even that Kevin thing, that was probably a pivotal point. It was like, okay, well, if you're going to knock me down a couple of pegs, I'm going to show you that I am above that.
Right.
And that's what I always did.
So you still stayed after that?
Yeah, I still stayed. And I probably only worked for him for a little bit longer, and then I was my own person. So, and initially, like in those days, you didn't necessarily rent a space. You worked in that studio and you paid them a percentage.
Oh, okay. So it was a percentage of what you were invoicing your clients.
So basically it was you were a freelancer and you paid, X amount % of every job that you did.
Wow.
And then
so what about stuff that's nothing to do with the studio? Like if you were...
if you shot it on location, but you're still working out of that studio, they still got the percentage. So I never did any dodgy where, hey, let's do this on the side, and Kevin doesn't need to know about it. It wasn't... It
have to be trust anyway.
Yeah,
There's no way it could work.
That trust.
I mean, you can't sit there and look at your books.
No. So and that was a great stepping stone in photography in the time, because it meant that you had no commitment without the work.
Right.
So you're only paying...
that is cool. I didn't think about that.
So you're working in the studio and you're paying a percentage, but only if you did the work.
Right.
So you could be, you could be lazy and just hang around and think, hey, I'm a cool...
Is that really... If you're a studio owner, wouldn't you want to do it differently than that? Wouldn't you want to say it's X amount a week or something? And
No, I reckon that probably...
Is that the best way?
At the time, I think that people did better out of people in that respect. But it meant that you didn't have that commitment. But then you just changed that commitment.
But the harder you work, the more you have to pay someone.
Oh, absolutely. But then you turn it and you go... Because both options were always available to you. You can be a freelancer or you can rent a desk. And so you just pick that point where you say, hey, I want an office now.
Right.
So, and I did that and then went through, the sort of Kevin and then the new building owner. So, and I guess, it was, some good times as well.
So you're starting to move out the studio as far as photography wise, less interior stuff, more outside. What was the next part of it? Where did you sort of head off to then, work wise, and what sort of work?
Okay, so basically, it was more the clients that I got that drove what I did, rather than me, maybe, because I started working for a bunch of graphic designers that had, corporate and government clients. So I was shooting for different, government departments and stuff like that. So then there was almost that people stuff was almost pushed more on me, where I was doing a bit more corporate stuff. But I always still had that love for architecture and even food as well. I always enjoyed shooting food.
They're
eating
big
it.
Different things. Like you think about shooting, just fashion, for example, it's very different feel. I mean, food's got to be fast because it falls apart on you quickly, but architecture is not that. No. So why so different? How did you reconcile that and what?
Well, the funny thing is the food came about because I started doing a few jobs for a company that ran a few different magazines. And then in the end, they said, I covered a couple of things that were food related. And then it just grew from that. So I was shooting for Sumptuous magazine for God knows how long. I think it was 6 or 7 years.
That's a great little mag.
It was a great little mag when it was around. So, and I loved the editorial stuff because I loved walking in. This is the difference. I had all the control earlier days, and then I actually really loved the challenge of walking into not knowing what I was going to walk into. So, and shooting editorial work. So you didn't know what you were going to have as far as backgrounds, lighting, what you could work with, and all that kind of thing. So I really enjoyed that. But then,
was that an adrenaline and joy?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I liked it, and then I got tired of it.
Yeah.
I also shot a lot of school stuff at the time, as far as not, group shots of people, but more the advertising stuff for school.
Oh yeah,
and stuff like that. But yeah, look, I shot a bit of everything, but then it really started to go, hey, I think that the control was taken too far out of my hands, but also shooting a fair bit of corporate stuff. There was a lot of people that would change your mood on a day. So I think it probably came about when I started to have a few mental health issues. And that came, I think, because I've always had this personality that has, it's kind of a little bit of a perfectionist personality, but not in a big way. But still, I've wanted to make everyone happy. I've wanted to do the best I could. And I found that, some people were taking that control out of my hands because they were moody CEOs.
Yeah, you were derailed.
I was kind of a little bit derailed, and I was so excited and passionate about everything I did that if someone wasn't the same, it just threw me off on a tangent. Like it was just, I constantly felt so emotionally drained with a lot of the people stuff. So I just cut it out.
Was there other parts of your life at that stage that coincided with all this happening? Like, because I find sometimes that if what's going on at home is takes a lot of effort, like having a kid or whatever, and you add that family stuff, so you don't actually get the pullback.
Well, it was all pre-Toby. So
Toby's your little one.
Yeah. So Kathy wasn't working in the business then.
So you're married to Kathy, right?
So I'm married to Kathy.
When did that happen?
When did that happen?
When did you get married?
3 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
That can't be long. What, longer than 3 years ago you got married?
No, we've been together.
2016.
We've been together a lot longer than that.
I think I got married in 2016, 4 years ago. I don't know. It doesn't matter. I don't know. It was at the Star of Greece. I remember that. And you've been together for a lot longer before that. And you worked together?
What am I saying? 3 years. Oh my God.
2016 was it?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Can we roll back tape? Roll back tape.
I need a drink. I'm sorry. Are you going to drive? I can't give you.
Yeah, no, I got to drive. Let's be responsible.
Yeah. This is nice having a live interview, by the way, because every other one's been on Skype up to this point.
Yeah, I know.
And it's
we are one. The camera might not seem like it, but we're 1.5 meters apart. Yeah,
we can fist bump.
We're supposed to do that.
Oh shit!
Sorry,
it's a COVID.
Yeah.
Sorry, what we're saying. Kathy, 2016, you got married, but you've been working together.
So basically, at the time, I was spreading myself.
She's a graphic designer, right?
Yeah. So Kathy was working at a company called Big Raw, which was down the street from me in Halifax Street. And
who else was there? Was Craig Arnold working for them at any?
Oh, yeah, he did a bit of work for him, I think. Yeah. So Kathy was a graphic designer, and
Is a graphic designer.
Is a graphic designer.
That's not practicing right now.
Just not practicing now, no. So there was nothing really happening from a home life perception. It's just I often stayed back late. I was at the studio late often.
Yeah.
I worked a hell of a lot of hours, and I just got to the point.
The perfection side of it.
Well, it was all that after stuff. And
post,
all the post-production stuff that really drained me. And I think the turning point was one night I was just working back, and I found myself staring at the wall, and I had no idea why. And I noticed this for a bit of time, that I was gradually just feeling really disconnected from myself in a really weird kind of way. And I hadn't taken acid or anything, just so everyone's clear on that. And I just felt that I wasn't right, so I went and saw someone, and then
good on you.
It I've been on this journey ever since. So that's about 9-10 years ago.
Far out.
8, maybe 8. I don't know.
But a lot of people don't.
But at the time,
they don't pick up on it. They don't do anything.
But at the time, I was vice president of the AIPP national.
Yeah. How much fun was that?
It was I met a lot of great people, but I don't think that fun's the right word.
It's hard work, isn't it?
It's a hard work, and I know that you've been.
It's a whole nother job.
It's a whole nother job. So
VP of AIPP.
VP, I was working my ass off, but I was also spreading myself very thin with helping out lots of other people as well. I was just the guy that wanted to be helpful and liked by everyone. So.
And with the state AIPP too, you were
state AIPP. Well, I had to quit the state AIPP.
But you were still helping out.
Yeah, but I was still helping out. I was mentoring people. I'd sign up for every bloody interview or exhibition launch, and then the TAFE thing as well. I was on their course advisory panel. Not that we ever really did much on that. I mean, we feel like we did a lot, but between me and Paul, we can probably say that. A lot of the voices sort of fell on dead ears.
I like the samosas.
Yeah.
You know, when we get the sandwiches.
Yeah, sandwiches and samosas.
It was a nice chat.
Look, and nothing against the lecturers. They did all they could. It's just a whole bunch of bureaucratic kind of...
Way above them. Way above their control, yeah.
And I think that is... The AIPP was frustrating for a lot of... And I think a lot of people sort of said this as well, because you're just one opinion. And you can wear your heart on your sleeve and try and go for as much as you can. But, you know, if it doesn't get supported or whatever, then you have to wear that decision and stuff like that. So
it's funny, you feel so dejected that you had the right idea that this is right, we should be doing this. You pour your heart and all your effort into it, and then a whole lot of other people go, nah. And the hard thing to realise is they are just, most of them, I guarantee you, are just like you.
Yeah.
And this is the thing, all these people, this love, all smashing together, trying to, and it's just destructive.
It's passion overload, but just in
it's just
in just and look, I've got no qualms with the AIPP. I think it was a very important time. I did 8 years of my life was either as vice president here, state president here, vice president nationally, chair of awards, judge. You know, I did a lot of stuff, but I also, you know, a lot of people did a lot of stuff. So I was one person in a, and at the time there was only a few people. It was only really me and Mark Zed and a couple of other people like Ed Nachinsky sort of really holding it together at the time. Yeah. A lot of people don't know, but we were actually going to get stripped, which was something that we had to try and say, because the AIPP in this state had died so much, it was actually going to become a division of Victoria.
And that's because the AAPP was so strong, because of the strength of the wedding and portrait photographers that felt the AIPP wasn't representing them. It's just crap.
Yeah. Anyway, it was a bad time.
But that pulled on you as well.
Yeah.
And then working with your clients that you felt were screwing up the flow of it.
Well, I can't say that it's not really to do with any one thing. It's to do with my personality, and I think that's something that I've had to try and work through in the last, you know, since
10 years.
Yeah, basically since that time. So I know that I overthink pretty much everything. I throw myself in wholeheartedly into everything, which means that I'm often spread thin. But as some professional people have told me, it's probably what makes me good at my job. So it's that balance, and it's been a real battle of ups and downs and a roller coaster ride in that time to try and find the balance.
So has Toby changed it?
Yeah, Toby changed it, but Toby changed a lot of things, because Toby, my passion for photography it kind of really took a back seat. Because I was such a proud dad, and I still am. I mean, that came out wrong, but I am just absolutely in love with this child, and he is everything. So it definitely changed my priorities, and I'm sure that any parent says the same thing when they have their first child. And he's just a little wonder. So he turns 3 in August. So, and he's a bundle of energy now. And
it's the best excuse to not do everything else.
Yeah.
And you can look at yourself in the mirror and say, the right thing to do is to drop everything.
Yep.
For this thing.
Yeah. So that's the thing. That's been the good thing of this COVID.
Yeah.
Pandemic and all the craziness that's going on with that, because it gave us this weird permission to just stop and work out what's important and value that time with family, and as much as we couldn't see them. I mean, we had a couple of front yard driveway hellos with mum and dad.
That's been pretty grim, that side of it.
Yeah. So
especially the older rallies. And
and lots of FaceTime.
Yeah.
But yeah, look, I think that something that I think Kathy, as sad as it is, has turned a little bit into me in that sense that she finds it hard to give herself permission sometimes. So it's hard to turn that mum thing off, and I find it hard to turn the work thing off. And I think that's just one of those battles of working from home. So after we moved out of the studio, we worked at home.
Yeah.
For years, and then obviously we've since had Toby. So I think I moved out of the studio about 7 years ago.
Yep.
So obviously Toby's only a third of that. So
and how's like this journey that you've been on? How's Kathy found herself through that? Has she okay? And she's
she's an angel. I mean, I know that it's grim, but I certainly wouldn't be here without her. But she's just been amazing, and look, yeah, we kind of work well together, but we have our moments as well, like any relationship. I mean, look, it's always hard working with a partner, as you probably well know, but I think what's happened is you have to play to people's strengths and work out that balance. And Kathy's happy to sit at the computer and do the after work, and also do all the emails and talk to clients and stuff, even though they often send emails, hi David, even though she's sent emails to him saying from Kathy, and so our clients could.
It must feel like it must feel
awful. She's always Kathy with a K or whatever, and it's like, come on people, pay attention to the kind regards, Kathy.
Yeah.
But no, like we love what we do, and I think that it's all it's kind of getting there now where it's a little bit more balanced. I actually wish that people would just sort of slowly broke us in after the big sort of COVID 8 or 9 weeks of not much at all, because everyone's gone a bit nuts now, and now the weather's up and down, which I knew would happen. Which is funny that we've been talking about how I was a control freak and that's why I was a studio shooter, and then I became, hey, let's have a challenge, and now I'm completely taken it away now. But what stopped me from doing the people stuff was that having the control of my own mood on the day, but also me having excuses that are out of my control. Like if I do a people job and I'm not in the right mood, or they're not in the right mood, and therefore the result is compromised. With architecture, you've got a building, it doesn't move, doesn't go anywhere, and all you have to do is go in and sort of celebrate it. But if the weather's shit, or the if the light's crap and you kind of got it wrong, you just come back a different day. And I think that's something that I still have that control factor, and I throw myself into every job I do in that sense as well, where I'll screw it down to that 20-minute window for every shot in.
So what's the process with an architectural shoot? There's obviously got to be a time limit on how long you can spend on it, because there's be better times of the year to go and see a building for sure.
Well, yes. Lots of people in this day and age with social media want to get it out and about, but they're still quite, respectful of what you think is a good idea. Like I just had a job that we've canned and we've said, oh well, there's no leaves on the tree outside of the building. Let's talk about this. Well, it was actually right at that time where they were dropping off, and I said, it looks silly with half dropped leaves out the front. Plus, they're all over the ground. And are you guys going to clean that off?
Yeah.
And we ended up talking about it, and we just said, oh no, we'll come back in, spring. No big deal.
So that's like, just thinking about it if your client's the architects, I'm sure they get it because they work in years with their work.
Yep.
But you think about the average Joe, hang on, I can't get my picture.
No. So architects are good, builders are hopeless. I mean, because in their mind, a job is done when it's done.
They walked out the door.
And often that actually comes to bite you because their version of done and my version of done are something that often has you going back to jobs because you rock up and you go, this is not right. Hasn't had its final clean, or you got dirty windows or something like that. So I guess I'm still a control freak, and I will look at Google Maps and I will drive past buildings and I will work out a time of day that.
You're using those sorts of things, and you work. You know where your son's going to track. And all that
so basically, all I'm doing. So I'm probably still the same person I started out as in the studio, except now I have my background and I have my subject. I don't have to create everything, but I still have to think about the line.
Yeah.
But that's what I love about photography. It's everything. And I think what gels with me about architecture so much is I love composition. I love finding that composition that is, might be simplistic but dramatic. And I think that's what I loved about Wolfgang Sievers' work. And I think that's probably what people take away when they see it. And that's what I've enjoyed with other people like Tim Griffith and a few other architectural photographers that have these really simplistic but powerful shots. So basically I approach every job as how can I tell the most amount of story with the least amount of content.
But some buildings are often about people, and then you've got to inject that into the space somehow. Is that a part of it?
So that I struggle with, but I still do lots of that. I only say I struggle with it because in the sense of if the people have to tell a story, if the people are just part of the composition and I can put them wherever they want and I can have movement and I can do all that kind of jazz, then it doesn't really, fight with my anxiety. But I do get a bit anxious if I have to do an interior of a school and you have to have students walking through it or a classroom, and only because of that direction side of it. But there's only so much you can do, and I'm usually fine on the day. It's usually just the build up.
Right.
So it's just an anxiety kind of thing.
So is that have you felt that improve? Like you've been battling this for 10 years.
Oh, absolutely. I
feel it's got you now. You understand what it is.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I can manage it now. Whereas I got to the point where I was having panic attacks and cancelling jobs about 4 days out.
Wow.
So
and how long did that go on for? Was that a small period before you got on top of that, or is it?
Oh no, I got on top of it pretty quickly. But again, I probably just stopped doing the kind of work which would put me in that kind of scenario. But what I have acknowledged is I need to do more because it's
exposure therapy.
Yeah, exposure therapy. Sorry. Because I feel like, if you haven't done a job with people, even if you haven't shot a portrait of someone for ages, and then you have to, there's that build up, that nervousness, and it's only because and I think a lot of people go through it, and I think it's only because you're so passionate about. The result that you let your mind get away from you a little bit sometimes. But so yeah, this is the thing with everything I'm saying now, and with any trust that I might have with any clients trusting me with their stuff and all that, was only a couple of times that I did that particular thing where I cancelled jobs a little bit because of a bit of a panic attack. But for the most part, it's all in my head, and on the day and in the moment, I'm completely fine. And no one would ever be aware of any of this kind of stuff. It's just my own battle, and it's not something that I have really discussed before, but I think it's something that I want to do more of. I mean, that part of me helping people has come back in a sense, and me and Paul have spoken about maybe a potential project with with people that have had mental illness problems within the creative industry. So, but yeah, I don't know. I think I've spoken to a couple of people, and I think a few people have had issues over the years.
Honestly, I don't know anyone who hasn't. Yeah. Either they haven't realised it or they.
Yeah, well, that's it. They probably.
And the saddest thing is when people haven't like thought about it and talked to someone about it, and just sort of said, okay, I might have something I need to deal, because there's so much resources out there now.
Absolutely, yeah.
Like just going to your GP, get a mental health plan, gives you 10 sessions, I think, of 10 free sessions with a psychologist a year, or is it 5 and you get to extend it to another 10 or whatever. But it is, and there's a huge range of psychologists with different skills and angles, and I've seen a couple of different ones, and I find that some are good at some things and suit you, and some are good at other things. And so some people have experience of psychology and go, well, that was terrible, I'm never doing that again. And they don't realise this didn't gel with the person that they're talking to. Because it's a relationship you're having with somebody. And if you can find that person you fit most comfortably with in that environment, and then you got it's basically like a coach to help you.
Absolutely. Well, I think when you I think with anyone, I think when you first start, it's confronting, but it's not so much confronting as it's a bit draining. But I think my initial battle was with it that I had a beautiful upbringing. I've got a beautiful family. I'm lucky that I'm doing what I always wanted to do since 15. I mean, that's just crazy. I feel really lucky in that sense. And I had a real issue with guilt at the start of that. Like I found it really hard to accept that I wasn't quite right. And I think once you get through that, and but yeah, look, I think that my initial problems, and my first person I saw was probably, she was more about me accepting it, and she drummed it into me that it is who I am, and I had to accept it. And,
what do you mean I can't fix this?
And of course, me being the control freak and the and wanting to have that control, wanted to fix it, and I want to fix everything. So that's been my.
Well, I think that's
been my frustration. That was my frustration with the start of it. But now I'm seeing someone that's a lot more compassionate and helping me through it, because she, it's just, I think you find someone that says, hey, I just want you to shine and have a normal life without all this stuff that's a burden. Yeah. And then you find that right resource.
And I think the point that you said about you had a great upbringing, I totally get you, and I think I'm the same boat as you. And I think it's that guilt and it's also the story we've been told by Hollywood or whatever storytellers that you had to have some trauma that's caused this or brought this on. It's a result of. It's not, and yeah, sure, for some people it is, for a small part of the population it is, but most people it's just the way you're wired, and we're so lucky, because I don't know about your parents, but my parents weren't really touched by war, but my parents' parents were, and I think we haven't had that major trauma that have affected the immediacy to us, and I think that stuff that war brings with alcoholism and domestic violence and all that sort of stuff, like that preyed on society for so long that we're probably still really feeling the echoes from it. So it probably is from that. But you feel like, what's wrong with me? Why am I wasting these resources? Why am I getting these free sessions? Why am I seeing this psychologist? They should be dealing with somebody who really needs them. And it's just little old me, and there's nothing wrong with me. I'm just whingy,
What excuse have I got?
What's my excuse?
Yeah, what's my excuse? And yeah, look, I think it's available to you, so you get the help, and it doesn't have to be a big deal. It just just tell a few people close to you, and don't make a big song and dance about it, and just get the help, because it's not worth it, And I think this is the funny thing, a lot of people think, and then you get even more guilt when you have a beautiful little boy, and you go, why do I feel like this when I have this beautiful little soul in my life? But yeah, it's weird that I think that the industry, my personality, the work I do, and this all kind of correlate in this weird kind of vicious circle universe that I've got going on. But I'm managing it now, and I think this is good.
No, it's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. And I think that, the creative industry, I don't mean to put it on creative's head, but a lot of the people you probably experienced as a part of the push and pull that have made your life a little difficult, like they are probably in a situation where they are probably struggling with things as well. They may not have gone to the stage of trying to understand why they're reacting to these things, seeing a psychologist. And they're probably just doing their natural thing, bouncing off their own ego and stuff. And not ego on a bad thing, but just their own self. They're bouncing off that, what they've been taught. And the thing that I find that psychologist gives you is a perspective.
Yeah.
And it's not like what is normal, but it's like, oh, yes, it's quite all right for you to feel that way because you feel this way because of X, Y, Z. And you go, oh, right. And then you can look at other people and go, oh, well, you must be feeling that way because of X, Y, Z and your own thing. And it brings this sort of empathy on, just being in the presence of someone who understands and is such a good empathetic person. And I think it helps you understand those. And I reckon if everybody, in our industry, wonderful if everybody got onto it and, these sorts of things would be much better. We'd have a better understanding of where we're at and why we get there. Interesting, isn't it?
Exactly. But yeah, look, I early on in the piece, I sort of convinced to myself that that I was, photography and the acceptance and those emails after you've delivered the job saying, wow, this is wonderful, was my drug. So it was kind of like I had an addiction where I lent on that praise a little bit. And I don't know if it's, it's funny. I mean, we're getting deep now, but I don't know if it's because I was picked on as a kid, but it just, I think that wanting to be liked and
it was probably your defense mechanism.
Wanting to know that you've helped people, is part of the problem. But yeah, look, it's just, it's a crazy little journey, but I feel good about it all, but I feel a little bit battered. But and the thing is, the other side of that is I had that, but then on top of that, I had that professional burnout.
Yeah.
Which is just a normal, traditional kind of professional burnout thing, and that was last year. And luckily, we could say, hey, I'm not going to work for a while. We had a lot of stuff in production anyway, so we still got some things that we were working on, and Kathy just did the whole work, and I just spent the whole time with Toby, and I took about 6 weeks off.
Oh, wow.
So, and that got me through that, and that was okay. So I'm back at it now, absolutely love what I do, and I feel a lot more positive about it. Whereas I had hit this point where I had lost the enjoyment. I felt a little bit ripped off. I was, probably working for too many people that didn't treat it as seriously as I did. So you kind of just strip out those clients.
That's hard, isn't it?
Yeah, no. Well, I mean, but you have to do it. I mean, this is
Well, if you're not looking and you're not wanting to see this level, people don't want to book you.
No.
You got to be the guy that they go to and go, oh my God, he's just going to do the right thing by me.
No. So that's the funny thing is, I think I keep saying that. This is just a habit, by the way. If everyone's sick of me saying the funny thing is, because it's not, because none of these
funny about it,
because none of these things are really that funny. But I find that everyone talks about what kind of work do you want to do, but I think more people could spend more time on working out what clients they want to work with, because they all have different personalities and they can really affect the work you do and what kind of work you do or how much you enjoy it. So
even with buildings, I mean, there's got to be some buildings that you just got to photograph.
Oh, yeah, but absolutely. But still, there's some clients that just don't treat it the way it should be. Yeah, right. And that's part of my problem. Like that slightly weird perfectionist side of me is I get really, really frustrated and angry. I don't show it, but I always get frustrated on what it could have been.
Yeah.
It's not about what it was or me polishing a turd, as they say in the industry, if I've had to. Yeah. But it's what it could have been. That frustrates the hell out of me.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, it just does my head in, because it's kind of like, And I think that's because I just try and line up all these, get the goalposts and say, hey, okay, I've worked out. Because I've done all this work to find out, hey, this is how the kind of day it needs to be shot on at this kind of time. Then you work back from that, because often part of the problem with that kind of work is access and whether it's actually even
completed,
even a possibility. But I just overthink everything, and that's what. Like I was driving around.
Are there any signs of that getting better, by the way?
Yeah. Well, yeah, but I don't know that I want to stop doing that.
No, I can't. I just want to listen to thinking, fuck, you're the guy that I'd want to do the work if you're the guy that's thinking way ahead of me.
Oh, yeah, well, often that is stated by the client. Geez, I didn't think about that. I mean, I was driving around today and these thoughts just come into my head, and I was just driving back from an appointment, and I'm like, shit, I've got to do that. I've got to do that bloody dust shot. And I've just realised, because of the time of year it is and when dusk is, I've worked out I've got to do I've got to shoot a building on a corner of a pretty major intersection at 5:30.
5:30.
And it's like, nah. And it's a corner, so I've got cars coming down the street straight at camera if I'm across the road.
Headlights, potentially.
So I've realised that, nah, that's not going to happen. So now tomorrow I have to send an email off going, any chance we can get someone in on a Saturday or a Sunday night? Yeah. Preferably a Sunday night. I mean, I tend not to book jobs on weekends, but sometimes you have to. Like if you've got to shoot up, 5 floors of corporate office space that's just had a fit out. If no one's there on a Saturday morning, it's a good time to shoot it.
So how, in a week, you tackling a shoot a week roundabout, or every couple of weeks?
I do about, most of the time I do about 3 a week.
Okay, wow. Yeah. That's crazy. And so any one of those could be shuffling around one another.
Well, this is the problem. Like this week I've had that because of...
The weather's been amazing.
The weather was nice, but it wasn't forecast. It wasn't nice yesterday morning. Yeah. So, and I moved stuff to Friday because that was a better forecast, and then today it turned out to be amazing. But this is, what... it's funny, me and Simon Casson often talk about this because he says, I have no idea how you deal with this shit. Like, because he has everything, and he has everything booked in at certain times, and with the work he does, and that's all kind of fine. He goes, how do you deal with this, ever changing diary? Because I've got a really, really fluent booking schedule, but it's the only way. It's the only way it can.
It doesn't work any other way.
It's the only way it can be, and I think that's why I've probably won a bit of respect that way, because if it's not right, I won't do it. And it's kind of one of those things that I remember that there's one shot that literally took me 9 months to do. It's just like, and I know it sounds funny, and people were just sitting there going, "Why would you do that to yourself?" But I remember and it was because of schedules and all that kind of thing as well, because I'd done other stuff. I'd done everything at this job, and often it's shit's cafe to tears, but I often have to go back to jobs. She's like, so is this one done? I'm like, nope. No, I'm sorry to say it's not. It's shit, sir.
But how much of that is? No,
it's in my head. So the client wouldn't care. Yeah. But I know that, hey, at 2:00 on a Thursday when it's sunny and no one's around is the time to do it. No. But this particular shot, I reckon it was something like that. It was between 2 buildings. Yeah. So it's a very, very small window of opportunity that you had the light where you wanted it to be. So it had to be a sunny day. I had to be available, and I had to have it know that it was going to be sunny far enough out that I could get access, because it wasn't the easiest place to get access to, because it wasn't just on a public street. And but I kind of love that stuff. It's kind of what damages me, but it's what I get off on.
Dangerous drug.
I get it off on. It's kind of like, okay, yeah, all right.
Yes.
If that's what it takes, but look, I've definitely chilled out.
Right.
Well, I think I've met a compromise basically of this whole feeling where you go, you know what, that's time away from my family and stuff like that. So
it's funny how that really changes.
Oh no, it definitely changes your perspective. But
you know what? What I've found now, my daughters are sort of 15, almost 16 and 17. There's a very limited amount of time they want to spend with me now. And my problem is now is like, hang on, I was needed last week. You know, like, what's going on now?
You're like Paulie wants a hug.
So my addiction has been, come on everybody, let's go to town together and hold hands and take photos or go for a drive to Victor Harbour. It's like, Dad, are you killing me? And they're not in any way those salty teens that is a stereotype. In any way, they're not that. They are wonderful and fabulous, but they've got lives themselves and they're great lives and they're doing great stuff. And I'm just in their way, like totally in their way. Yeah. And all I get is around dinner time when we'll watch some telly together, a show that we're sharing together, and we'll have a laugh and we'll have a quick chat and I get to hear about their day and, you know, that kind of stuff. But that's it. After that, they're studying till midnight or they're going to see some friends. And so now I'm at that point where I'm like, oh, what do I do? And it's a really lovely feeling because it's this flood back of, I could do this, I could do that, I could do this, all this opportunity. And
you can have a schnitzel and a beer with
you and Simon and Claudio. It's coming. I'm getting the time back now, and it's this time you give up for a period of time for a very, very important thing.
Yeah,
that's your kids, and then you get it all back. And it comes back and then you're a bit lost. But the trouble is you're decrepit too. Like everything hurts at the moment with me, so I can't do.
I was worried about that, having a kid sort of later in life. And it all happened at the same time. So.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was 4 years ago because it was 40. Yeah, so I turned 40, got married, and we...
Well, 40's a new 50.
We had a child, so...
I'm 50 next month, so 50's a new 40. So, you know, like we're the same age.
I can't believe I got the wedding year wrong.
Look,
I shouldn't have brought that up again. She might have just got bored by that time and turned off the podcast. But
well, look, we got to wrap up, Sunshine, because this is now holding the world's record for my longest podcast,
really?
Which is fabulous.
I still feel like we haven't even really talked.
I know that's anything. The deal with this stuff. Yeah, like it's a good thing, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Let me ask you one last question.
Yeah.
What's next? What are you going to do? You're going to dig in deeper with the architecture work, and like I'm just telling you now, you're about to get, not about to, in a few years' time, you're going to get so much of your life back as your kid gets older, and they're going to be going to parties, and you have weekends to yourself. Are you going to chase the architecture more, or are you going to pivot your photography interests? Are you going to shoot some more film, or you got any plans?
Oh yeah, no. Well, it's funny when you said we'll go off in the car and go for a walk around town, because that's probably what I've missed. Right. Yeah, because I think that's why I got burnt out last year, is because I've been an avid person of telling everyone, hey, you got to do stuff for yourself, man. You got to have at least a personal project every 2 years or something like that. And I've done none of that. I've done none of that for too long.
You've done Toby.
Yeah, I've done Toby. No,
that's your personal project.
Yeah, that's been my personal project. But yes, it's kind of like, yes, I love what I do, and my happy place is when a client tells me what building I have to shoot, and I can go and do it in my own time and walk around it with a camera and think outside the box and do it. But my happy time before that, this is Toby aside and my family, of course. But I mean,
let's give them props.
Like, I mean, photography wise,
yes,
I mean, Paul would know that I spent a lot of time. I loved traveling and taking pictures and shooting pictures on film and all that kind of fun stuff. And I probably have suffered from not doing enough of my own things. But like I said, you have different priorities. So what's next is, I think, just more of the same. I mean, I do quite a bit of food stuff as well, and I think that is just so everything doesn't feel like Groundhog Day.
Yeah.
And it's still two things that you have a fair bit of control on.
Yeah.
Again, not people related, but I probably need to start thinking out, putting myself in that vulnerable position and maybe shooting people again, just to some extent, because I feel like I feel like a lot of this stuff, and I think a lot of creatives are like this, the longer you go without something, the harder it gets to do it again.
Yeah, totally. It grows over. I think it really does.
So I feel like I don't know what's next. It's just more of the same.
I mean, a lot of people say they shoot architecture, landscape, and that because they don't like people. Like, I've heard that from so many people.
I love people.
It's like a trope.
I just don't want to photograph them.
This is the thing, right? This is the the difficult thing with you, the contradiction. That's the word I was looking for with you, is that you really like people and you're great with them, and
I'm a real social person. I just don't like people robbing me of my mood. But that's the same as if I'm driving my car and I've got someone driving up my ass. Like people that
that's why you have a fast car.
No, it's not that fast.
Spency's driving it.
Yeah. It's got a little screen on the window and a baby seat in the back now, so it's driven very responsibly at all times. But yeah, look, what were we talking about?
We're talking about what you're doing next.
Yeah. I think more.
Well, that's a good answer.
I think more of the same, but yeah, just really concentrating on myself and finding that enjoyment again. I think it's really important because we are extremely lucky that I've had my own business for 21 years, and in the last 10 or 12 years, I've been able to do pretty much one kind of thing, and that I've been recognized for that.
Yeah,
and that's so. I just want to continue that journey and get keep throwing myself challenges with trying to find that time of the day that makes a building sing, which is really a corny way of putting it, isn't it? That's a corny way to end.
Maybe.
That sounded like a pitch.
It may be.
Yeah, we don't want a pitch at the end.
Don't worry, no one listens to this anyway.
You told me there was tens of thousands.
Well, actually, I just noticed that. I was looking at the stats trying to work it out. I was like 1,300 downloaded Steph's last Sunday.
Right.
But the next day was still like 900 downloaded the next day. So it's actually a lot. So sorry, I didn't mean to. So maybe it is a pitch.
Well, if people
it's a joke Kate and I have that no one listens, and certainly no one watches the video.
Oh well, I watched the video. I found that way a bit. I don't know. I don't know if it was easier. I had a couple where I put the YouTube video on the right screen while I worked on the left screen. Oh. I don't know why I needed to see your beautiful blue eyes, but
you don't have to see my blue eyes. They're getting a bit red from the old Pudney. You know why I chose this whiskey? Because it had a boat on it.
Oh yes.
It's just like it was. I was in the shop going, "Why do I buy a drink tonight?" We've actually made a dent in the bottle, even though we've only had.
Well, you must have drank some before I got here.
Must have, at any rate. But yeah, I was looking at it, going, "Which one do I choose?" And I chose one with a boat, which is very predictable. You'd choose the one with a building on it, wouldn't you?
No. I'd build one. I'd put one with a car on it, maybe.
Car
or a guitar. Oh. See, I'd like to go back there. Photography owes me a Gibson Les Paul, at least.
Sounds like it does.
At least.
Well, John Clark, who ran Duck Pond, used to work here. He bought his son a Gretsch White Falcon.
Oh, hello.
I know. His son's actually an incredibly talented musician. He looks like young John Lennon.
Right.
And so all John was doing towards his retirement was buying his son guitars, and he couldn't convince him to turn into John Lennon. But he's got this great guitar
White
collection.
Falcon. That's very was it Roxette?
Yeah.
He had one of those, the guy in that, and also the Living End, Australian band. Really? He was very big on Gretsch.
They look amazing. It's like a Cadillac, that thing.
Yeah, it is. It is very heavy and big. So,
yeah.
Anyway.
Any rate, wrapping up.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's been lovely. And schnitzel time?
Soon.
Because we're opening. The doors
the doors are opening. 80 people now. 80. Oh, trust me, I've had there's a couple of hospitality venues I have to shoot at the moment, and it has been a nightmare. The goalposts are changing every day, and it's been fun trying to, hey, when are we going to do this?
So, the viewers don't know this, but there's a group of us, a very small group, that go out. We're kind of grumpy old men.
Yeah.
Are we?
Yeah, well, I'm the youngest.
Yeah, I know you're the youngest. But you don't have to be old to be grumpy and old.
Well, I got more and more grumpy. I feel like I'm chilling out.
I think this is the trouble. I think that, you might be breaking the grump. I mean, Claudio has never been grumpy.
No, he's not grumpy.
He's just like...
He's Italian and passionate.
He's just the happiest man on earth, I think.
But are you calling Simon grumpy?
I think Simon and I probably win the prize for being grumpy.
I think you're getting grumpier.
Yeah.
But...
We had a beard there for a while.
Yeah. I shaved mine today.
Look at you.
Oh, it's just a little bit. It's still there a little bit there. I never cut it all off, so...
Yeah. Well, thank you, everybody. Thank you very much for being a part of it.
Thanks
thank
for
you
the
very much
scotch.
for listening. Thank you for the scotch. Thank you for your wonderful photography.
Thank you.
It's a joy to have you a part of all of this world that we're in and photography. And I think for what you've given the listeners tonight, you said you've never spoke to some people about some of this stuff, and that's a really lovely thing. I think everyone's better off for Smack. We recording?
It's a double smack when you do that, You smack and then you say you smack. That's 2 smacks.
Smack.
Paul.
Kate.
Welcome back.
Welcome back.
What did you think of that interview, Paul? That was our first interview, person to person other than you and
I.
I.
And look, the desk is set up this way with the 2 microphones. In fact, I've got a 3rd microphone so we can do a triple chat. It's not rigged up. But I don't know where it'll stand, like with 3 little monkeys, evil, speak evil. But we haven't worked out. And of course the lighting, how do I get that worked out?
Lighting. You know what? We need to hire an actual photographer.
Or are we going to give up doing video? She's worked out video's difficult.
But video's not, it's just, it's another level.
I know. So tell me, you enjoyed the David interview?
Yes.
And it was wonderful sitting.
And we're gonna put a whole lot of pictures and all that good stuff in the thing.
Yeah. And you'll see all the links to Beyond Blue and all that important stuff.
If anyone's feeling wobbly.
Yeah, if anyone's feeling wobbly, and we encourage you to look it up. So how was that?
Look at you. Have you got your little list?
No, I've got a list because these are the things I want to add to the show notes. I want to add the Tank Museum to the show notes.
Oh, bloody Tank Museum. Really?
It's so good.
Hey, there was apparently, I heard on one of my favourite shows that I listened to, the Gabfest.
Yes.
There was a political Gabfest. There was apparently a whole series of films of interviews with the guys who built I think it's the Brooklyn Bridge or something, some huge bloody American thing. Right. And they're all like sitting on top of the building and laughing and having a chat, and apparently their accents are astounding.
So really old.
Really old footage that they found. I'll find the link. Political Gabfest. It's in there, one of their recommends this week, but I'll find it and send it to you and we'll put it in there because it's so good. Yeah. And they're the accents that you don't hear anymore in America, in those Brooklyn, New York crazy accents.
I love that stuff.
So we can remember, whatever. Nothing good there. Anyway, yes, right.
Nothing good there.
No,
I was
just running. No, I love America, but I just ran down a path and just decided to turn around and run back again. And Frank wasn't with me to run circles around me because when me and Frank run,
it works well.
Frank runs around me, I run around the oval. So we are like, it's a what do you call that?
Orbiting?
Come on, space. That's it. Orbiting.
We should ask Steph Fuller. She knows all that.
Steph.
Steph, so
yes,
your moment of colour. By sheer serendipitous coincidence.
It is actually, really, it is.
It's black.
But you did not do that deliberately.
A scout's honour. Like the next chapter of Cassia St. Clair's The Secret Lives.
How many have we got left?
Well, not many, but I've got other plans to be, digging into colours. We're not just going to lean on Cassia.
Okay.
We're going to talk to other things about, but like black. Let's start off. Is black a colour?
Well, did you choose
Cassia
black because I painted our house black?
I didn't, but it just happened to also coincide with the fact that you've done a lot of black painting.
And how glorious is it?
How glorious is it? And it's the kind of black you've chosen is a really interesting black because it's a very matte black.
Yes.
And you know what? It's the same sort of a matte black that we get with pigment ink on smooth cotton paper.
It is a Murabond Mura Wash. Which is an Australian-made paint that is environmentally friendly, and it is all heritage approved, which we don't have to worry about because this place is basically, a dump. But
so black is
it's got grit and gunk in it, so it's all
black
chalky.
Is the absence of light, right? It doesn't reflect light, and if you've got a black that does reflect light, the black lightens up and it becomes a grey. So the idea of black is it absorbs light and doesn't reflect it. So if you've got a glossy black, sure, the black might look nice and rich, but as soon as you get any kind of reflection off of it,
it does.
It's shiny, right?
Yeah, which is the one in what we painted upstairs is like almost like velvet. It's so black, it's so dark, and then at night it just disappears. It's like there's no wall. It's like a void.
Yeah.
I should photograph it.
Well,
I should do the
what's the
Steph.
picture gonna be? Just
I should do the Steph. Did Steph teach you nothing last week?
No, she taught me everything.
Right.
She was great. But my point is that we generate a really lovely black on smooth cotton, and one of the challenges
we're known for our detail.
We're known for our detail, but we're also known for the depth of it, because David specifically overrides the
don't give away the
print
secrets
systems to generate this black, which is it's incredible. The trouble is, on smooth cotton where the black is its most effective, it's so delicate. You brush it a little bit one way.
Nobody cares though, because everybody orders the 6x4s and 7x5s on Master Fine Art paper, and they get trimmed up and chucked in a box, and David just sits and weeps at the edge of the box going, oh, my blacks have been destroyed.
Yeah, you put it behind glass though, and the glass puts a gloss, and so there goes your black behind.
Yeah.
If you put it on the wall, you touch it, you hurt it. It's a delicate little puppy.
Yeah.
And it is fascinating.
It's like the black paint upstairs. I'm going to basically walk around for the rest of my life with a little pot of that shit, just touching it up every time someone bumps into it.
So you know what I think? Yeah, you literally are doing that.
I literally
We've been doing that.
It's not a joke.
And one of the things that, like, there is this chase for richness of colours, and of course, with pigments that go to make paints and inks and that kind of stuff, there's this chase to get more and more extreme colours for artists to use. And there's a fabulous story of a guy or a team that had invented the blackest black, and it withholds 98%.
Yeah.
It's called Vanta Black. And
but did you look up the guy that copied it and did the thing?
And then the artist who's been using it.
Yes, that artist.
I'm not going to go into that story because the first part of the story is told in this book, and you should pick it up. But I wanted to talk about Vanta Black because it stands for a vertical alignment of nanotubes. A vertical alignment of nanotube array. Okay.
Really?
Now, just think
cooler.
Think about it. We've talked about the smooth cotton paper that you can mark it by brushing it. You kind of lay the fibers of the paper down. It's the fact it's got these fibers that when the light goes into it, it traps the light. Now, the way Vanta Black works,
like a black hole.
Yes. The way Vanta Black works is they've made the fibers out of nanotubes, which are tiny, tiny, microscopic little tubes, and they grow up. So if you imagine
like
hair? I think it's hair or seagrass, waving around the ocean at the bottom. And I imagine it like that, but it's all black and these tubes are black. So light gets in there and it bounces around because it does reflect a little, but it can't go anywhere because of these tubes absorb it. That's what Vanta Black is. And it's not that different from the black we see on smooth cotton.
Wow.
And that is this technique, and it's stopping the reflection. And the black is so black that when artists have used it, and there's a watch that have got the face made of it, and there's a whole lot of gimmickry is done around the actual ink itself is so expensive that it's probably come down in price now. There's not a lot you can do with it. So Vanta Black is a really interesting thing, and I reckon some of that technology is being put into the thinking behind some of these fine art printing systems, because we're talking 2012 when that was invented. So
so that's a while ago. I thought it was more recent than that.
Yeah, that's right. So what is it?
But that's because I'm old.
I think I had some numbers here. Or we might skip. There's no point in going through the details of Vanta Black. We've kind of talked about what.
But you can buy this paint, this artist, and he's done all these crazy colours. And you know who desperately wants it?
Josephine.
Oh, baby, does she desperately want it? That's a Christmas present. She's not listening to this.
No. So let's talk about the oldest black that was
That might be the shit I just painted on the walls.
It might be.
Pretty old.
What's the oldest way that people have created art?
Well, on
cave walls
with Charcoal.
Charcoal. So charcoal is burnt fibers, timber, lignin cells, and that kind of stuff. Burnt. Really good charcoal is kind of compressed, burnt with a bit of oxygen removed.
That's a judgment call on charcoal.
But it doesn't flake
quite
apart.
Frankly,
it doesn't flake apart when you make it right. But interestingly enough,
here we go.
Interestingly enough, I'm going to read a little bit from this book here. As an energy source, the charcoal powered the Industrial Revolution in the UK.
Charcoal? Not coal?
No, charcoal was one of the parts. Such vast quantities were used to smelt iron that whole forests were decimated and smoke filled the air around cities. Charcoal is thus indirectly responsible for one of the classic exemplars of natural selection. So we're talking Darwinian action here.
Okay.
But that one's all right.
Yeah.
The Biston Betulia F. typica, or peppered moth. Peppered moth. How's that, Mr. Popper on the pop filter of the peppered moth? Is usually speckled white and black. Right, so this is a moth.
Okay.
That used to be white and black.
Sure.
During the 19th century, a previously unknown variety with an all black body and bitter chocolate wings. I don't know, do they eat the wings?
Oh, bitter chocolate. Let's get some of that into the
With
podcast.
bitter chocolate wings began appearing more frequently around the northern towns, while numbers of the white speckled kind declined sharply. By 1895, a study around Manchester found that 95% of the peppered moths were dark against the bark of sooty trees. The dark moths were harder for the predators to see. So charcoal and the use of it
killed off the white moth.
Well, it caused them to breed more black moths.
The black moths.
Interesting, huh?
Bloody hell. That's a bit scary.
So let us also hear about, because I was interested in this, do you know what coal is? Kohl?
Eyeliner. See, I
Eyeliner.
put eyeliner on today for the first time.
Eyeliner.
Josephine's trying to teach me how to not look like I've been punched in the face.
So coal eyeliner, 1400 and 1300 BC was used. Like, this is one of the oldest makeup-y things, in the history of stuff. And I won't tell you what coal actually is, but in 2010, a French researchers began analysing the traces of powder found in coal pots. We're not talking about dictators in type. We're talking coal pots. Discovered they also contain something even more precious, man-made chemicals, including 2 kinds of lead chlorides that would have taken around a month to brew. Mystified, they conducted further tests. To their astonishment, these chemicals were found to stimulate the skin around the eye and produce around 240% more nitric acid than usual, significantly reducing the risk of eye infections. In a time before antibiotics, such simple infections could easily lead to cataracts or blindness. Coal, like the little pot in the shade of the fearsome Bez, which is the Egyptian god, was a very practical form of protection. So, you see the pharaohs and the Cleopatras
with all that gunk around their eyes.
It could be they have their infection.
Wow.
Well, to prevent infection. Interesting.
That's the reason to,
And lastly, let us very quickly talk about Indian ink. Because Indian ink is something we all love. The Chinese who ascribed the invention of ink to Tian Chen, who lived between 2697 and 2597, also used lamp black for their ink, sometimes confusingly known as Indian ink. So Indian ink is actually lamp black being used, and it's suspended like in a turpentine or something like that. The pigment was produced in huge amounts. Row upon row of special funnel-shaped lamps were tended every half hour or so by workers who scraped the soot off the sides of lamps using feathers.
Wow.
For special occasion, they used the soot of pine logs, ivory, lacquer resin, or deposits of dead yeast left over after the end of wine fermentation. But the end product was essentially the same. So how cool is that?
That's so cool.
Indian ink, charcoal, like the basics of art really is there. And of course, right all the way to now, Vantablack, where they're making with nanotubes.
Bloody nanotubes.
And black, I flippin' love black. I think black's incredible.
I love it. We're about to have a black bedroom. Did you know that? Ooh. It's going to be pretty great.
What's that joke you said about once you've gone black? And you tell me the reason
Once
why.
you go black, you never go back because it's really hard to paint over.
I'm glad you kept it clean. I'm very pleased.
Look, it is the actual reality.
Yes. Anyhow,
But that's fine. I'm standing up again now. You've stopped your yakking.
Let's tell these lovely people, wish them good luck.
Good luck.
We'll talk
Let
to you
them
next
know.
week.
Hang on. You have to do the pudding joke about black.
My mother's black pudding was so black, even the white bits were black. Sorry, that just came to my head.
That's the old man joke for today.
Yeah.
After your moment of colour.
Yeah, after my moment of colour. Have a lovely week.
Try and have a lovely week.
Yes.
Watch some trash television.
And remember, because, I did want to say.
What?
That Cassia had mentioned one more thing in her book about it. Churchill, right? Winston Churchill.
Yep.
I think this is a really, really, really good way to wrap up. So please forgive me on this one.
Okay, all right.
Please forgive me on this one. Here we go.
For it.
Last bit.
And the black dog, which is depression.
You just blew it for me.
Oh, shit. Really?
Yes.
We'll cut it out.
Another man famously dogged by the spectre of depression was Winston Churchill. He wrote to his wife, Winnie, in 1911, telling her of a German doctor who had cured a friend's depression. I think this man might be useful to me if my black dog returns, writes Churchill. So, yeah, we talked about the horror of the problems in America and the troubles that they're going through.
Yep.
We talked about depression. We talked about David, and it came up in our interview with David, and it's the colour black, and we have the black dog of depression, and it's all rather lovely. But I just want people to remember that we are all the sky and not the weather. Things change.
Yes.
Things move on. And we
yes,
will
who
get,
did
we
that?
Will be
That
better.
was Stephen Fry did a lovely discussion of depression and how it's like the weather, and you just have to hang on until bad weather passes. That's it. Well, this was a real up show.
I know. But see you next week.
Yes. Bye.